Hello and welcome to the sideboard here for the SCG Tour Spotlight. I'm Ken Crocker here with top 8 competitor Josh Cho. Josh.
What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Not bad. Can't complain.
All right, so you're here with a pretty innovative brew. Not a deck we've seen a lot of play in Modern lately.
Sure.
Black-white tokens.
Yep.
So why black-white tokens? Why now? What's gotten better about it? Why did you decide to play this deck here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I played this deck at Grand Prix Pittsburgh a few months ago.
Okay.
Did pretty well with it. I liked how it matched up against a lot of the more popular decks in the format. Splinter Twin, Burn was huge at the time.
Okay.
And I wanted something that was just great against that expected field.
Sure.
And I felt that Black-White Tokens did a really good job of matching up with it with certain card choices. I certainly wanted to play White because I feel like White has the best sideboard cards in Modern.
Especially with all the linear strategies you want, impactful
Exactly.
cards.
I mean, you're not doing anything incredibly busted with this deck. You're not like getting a Gristle Branded play on turn 2, anything like that. You're trying to play like
turn 2 anytime soon, probably.
Exactly. You're trying to play like good clean Magic, and I feel like you have the disruption to go along with it, a pretty resilient threat base, things along those lines.
All right. Well, let's talk about the threat base. You got the only creature in your deck, Orzhov Champion, a 3/of, which has been gaining popularity, we'll say, around the financial side of Magic since we've seen this deck.
Yeah, so making somebody rich.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody out there is making money. Why 3/of and why Orzhov Champion?
Yeah, absolutely. So Orzhov Champion, it does a great job of blanking a number of decks. I talked about how I wanted to beat Splinter Twin and I wanted to beat Mono Red.
Sure.
It's got Pro Red, Pro Black, so they can't really get rid of it well.
Okay.
And it's a great card for strategies that are either trying to burn you out because you have consistent ways to gain life.
Yeah.
And also the protection ability, it just stays in play against a lot of decks because they can't really remove it. So it's a 3/of. I don't think you want more than that. Three's a good number just because there's a lot of numbers that are kind of fluid, but I think you want at least 3, like maybe 4 if you really want to nail down that particular matchup.
Sure.
But I think 3 is a really good number for it, just so you can have a more diverse package in the deck.
So the protection from black and red is kind of interesting because we've seen people start to move towards a green-black infect deck, mostly to play Phyrexian Crusader because it has protection from green and red. So this one has protection from black and red, so it can't be Abrupt Decayed, can't be bolted. So pretty much Jund and Abzan can't remove it unless they decide to path you, and I think you're okay with that.
I think path is probably really the only widely played removal spell that can effectively deal with Orzhov Champion, and so that puts it in a good spot. I mean, you have people leaning on bolts, like you Splashing Dismember, something like that, and Orzhov Champion just doesn't care.
Just doesn't care. So obviously that's not the only creatures in the deck. It is called Black-White Tokens, so you have a bunch of token makers. So you have 4 Lingering Souls, 4 Bitter Blossom, 2 Spectral Procession, and 2 Timely. So why exactly those numbers?
So Lingering Souls is a great way to you want something to come down on turn 3 in the flashback. It's pretty easy to cast for it. It pairs well with it's hard to talk about certain cards in this deck because it's really just a cohesive unit.
Sure.
Like you have your creature base, your token generators, your anthem effects, and then your disruptions.
Okay.
I wrote an article about this on Star City Games. I think in the first week of December.
That's a good plug, by the way, right there. If you want to learn more, go read it.
Nothing but a company, man.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you want to go read it, I did make some changes because that was the list that I had played at GP Pittsburgh.
Sure.
So that's really what, the numbers can kind of change. Like I had played, there was 4 timely reinforcements in my 75. There's only 2
Worried
now.
about burn a little more.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's why I think that the cards that you definitely want 4 of is 4 of Bitter Blossom, 4 of Lingering Souls, and then Timely, that number can go up or down, and Spectral Procession is a 3. The reason that Procession isn't more, even though it generates a ton of tokens all at once, is it has to do with the mana base, because I'm only playing 1 Windbrisk Heights, which is kind of the combo, back in standard.
Yeah, back in the day, you used to attack a 3, Windbrisk Heights out something.
Would activate to cast a free spell. But, I wanted to make sure that I had ways to interact with my opponents, so you have to, sort of make concessions at each spot. I wanted to make sure that, moving on, that I had, had enough spaces in my deck to cast Inquisition to Kozilek, Thoughtseize, just removal spells.
You're kind of removal / disruption package, which you have 4 Inquisition, 2 Thoughtseize, which is now the budget Inquisition, 1 Slaughter Pact, and 1 Murderous Cut. So that seems to be the way you're kind of disrupting your opponent. Obviously, you have inherent card advantage because you're casting 1 card to make several creatures. So it's not that bad to kind of trade one for one because you're kind of getting ahead every little bit at a time.
It's also pretty good too because a lot of people are playing spot removal and not as much board sweepers.
Sure.
At least pre-board for it. And so you're making their lightning bolts, their path to exiles, pretty inefficient against the threats that you're presenting to your opponents. Like, here's 3 spirit tokens with intangible virtue. What you got? That kind of thing.
We got a lightning bolt. Okay.
All right.
I'm okay with that. Snapcaster lightning bolt, another one. Still okay with that.
And so we have a pretty good removal package for it, and then we have what are the anthem effects of the deck.
And so anthem effects are you have 4 intangible virtue, which was so good it was banned.
in block constructed.
We have the 1 Storm Solemn Visitor, and then we have 2 Gideon Allies Undercard. Now Gideon obviously new from Battle for Zendikar. Is this one of the big major innovations that's been made to the deck?
That was one of the most pleasant surprises of this deck. I knew that it just does everything that this deck wants to. It can be another token generator if you need an army. It can end the game with his ultimate effect for it.
His ability to anthem.
Yeah, his ability to anthem, and also he can just be a 5/5 that if they clear the board, and then you can put a pretty quick clock on them with Gideon.
He's pretty big.
Yeah,
he does a lot of damage. In standard, we've seen him do some damage. Here we have him in modern doing some damage too. One interesting note I would like to get to though is. So we've seen Sorin in a lot of token decks. Hadn't seen Gideon so much. So the question is this split? Is this something that's you advocate going forward? Is the 2-1 Gideon to the Sorin split?
I really like that. Sorin is good, especially when you're racing. When people are trying to race you via damage. Life linking up your team is pretty impressive. I'm not sure if in this event I have minus the Sorin yet to put a token into play, but also I've certainly ticked up to ultimate him. In 3 turns after you blast him, just to lock him out of the game.
You got the Abyss effect going on.
Exactly, and that's a lot of fun.
Not so helpful in the mirror, but
we'll see. It gets rid of Orzhov champion, and they have to draw more stuff. I don't know. But you're just trying to race them in the mirror, and I haven't played against the mirror.
Obviously not a big mirror match yet. But now maybe.
Well, now I don't know if anyone can actually buy Orzhov champions
online.
Now the
Orzhov champion might be a bit of a bottleneck. All right, so let's talk about your mana base. So you're playing 2 color in modern, which is usually reserved for either combo decks or aggro decks. You're playing, a grindy mid-range deck. Most of the time we see the grindy mid-range decks 3 colors, it's usually green, black, something. You're basically playing a grindy mid-range deck in a way. So you have a lot of basics. You have your swamps and your plains.
Three plains, 1 swamp.
But you do have some interesting cards in here. So you said 1 Windbrisk Kites, 1 Vault of the Archangel, 4 Ghost Quarter, and then 2 Shambling Vents. So I guess I want to talk about and 3 Flagstones of Trokir, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah, card's great.
Yeah. So I really want to talk about the Shambling Vents and the Ghost Quarters. So
Absolutely.
It looks like you have a lot of colored mana. It's not intensive, but you need black or you need white pretty much every time. So the 4 Ghost Quarter, how often does it come up that kind of hurts your mana base?
So I was playing 3 Ghost Quarters, and that's really what took the slot that was the 3rd timely reinforcements at the Grand Prix, just because I felt that the popularity of Tron was getting bigger. Bloom was another card, another strategy that I had a little bit of
the big mana strategies.
Yeah, exactly. And wanting to be able to disrupt them, it's actually nice because I like being a little bit land heavy with Ghost Quarter, and honestly, Ghost Quarter Flagstones, I might have actually Ghost Quartered my own lands more than my opponent's lands throughout this event, just because I want to play around, Blood Moon, things like that. You want to make sure
fetch lands, if you will.
Well, it's great with Flagstones of Trokir because you get the basic land off of Ghost Quarter coming in play on tap, and then you can go find either a Plains or a Godless Shrine and have that come into play tapped with the Flagstones. So it's just another way that you can help fix your mana, I guess, a little bit in a pinch.
So the 2 Shambling Vents, that's obviously another newer card. Do you think that card actually helps put the strategy over the top?
I don't know if it puts it over the top. It does a little bit of work, when you're in racing situations or you want to block, if they have bears or anything like that, 2 powered creatures, that does a good job of, blocking, playing some defense, gaining you a little bit of life. And then if they do clear your board and the board is completely clear, you have a land that you can basically use as a threat to sort of, maybe not end the game, but at least push it towards your
pressure
end game.
on.
Exactly.
Fair enough. All right, so let's talk about your sideboard real quick.
Okay.
You obviously have the Fulminator Mage package. That's probably for the big mana strategies.
Yeah.
Stony Silence, probably Tron, Affinity. No big surprise there. Disenchant, just kind of a catch-all. I assume you're
bit of a
trying
catch-all.
to... Blood Moon might be a little bit of a problem, not much.
So the Disenchant, it's good against Affinity. It's good. It is good against Blood Moon. A lot of people have been adopting like Worship as a tactic as well.
Sure.
So it's just a nice little,
So let's talk about that,
coverage.
because
Sure.
you're also adopting Worship as a strategy.
Yeah. So again, a lot of decks like Mono Red that we were talking about that they don't have great ways to get rid of Auriok Champion where it just sits in play.
Okay.
Worship basically doesn't let you lose the game via damage
Okay.
if you have a creature in play. So it makes it really hard for them to remove it and also do the last bits of damage, lets you catch up, draw more spells, and a lot of those decks like Mono Red, they don't really have a great way to get rid of enchantments.
Okay.
So that's sort of why it's there, and it does really good work against those particular strategies.
All right, quick warning for those watching. If you have a Bitter Blossom out and a Worship out, you still can die.
Yeah,
it is loss of life.
You can, and like I was talking to some people, and I just knew that there was going to be a spot where I had Auriok Champion and Bitter Blossom and Worship, and I was just going to lose that way. But fortunately, that didn't come up this weekend.
All right, and then finally you have 2 Rest in Peace. Now, that seems a little odd in the Lingering Souls, Murderous Cut style deck. So
Sure.
Were you that afraid of graveyard strategies that you just thought, I got to play this, or is it basically there to stop people from having bigger creatures like Tarmogoyfs and things of that nature?
So there are situations when you can sort of play Rest in Peace as like a value card for it, where you want to negate the effects of Grim Lavamont or Tarmogoyf and cards like that, but I'm not particularly worried about that because you can always sandbag it until you flashback your Lingering Souls or your Murderous Cut. Maybe it's not always correct when we're talking about those value times to just play it as a KO against, let's say, other decks that are really relying on their graveyard for it. So you can sort of plan ahead to see when you want to play it as a threat to negate that type of strategy that they're trying to attack you with. So that's where it's pretty good against that as well. Like decks like Grixis, where they have to pay full price for their Tassigers, Gurmag Anglers, things like that. And also it's like a bit of a catch-all against decks that are really relying on their graveyard, like the Living End decks.
Or Jerry's Dredgevine deck.
Sure.
Did you have it? You had a little talk with him beforehand, decided to sneak that in?
That's mainly why I have them, because I never want to lose to Jerry Thompson.
Well, Josh, it seems like you brought back a archetype that many had thought fallen off the radar, and you put a little more spice into it, and it served you well so far. So good luck in the top 8.
Awesome.
Thanks for stepping into the spotlight with us.
Bro.
I appreciate it. All right, you guys stay tuned for more of these Magic Online videos.